Good day, everybody, and welcome back to the Triple R Show, Real Raw Recovery, where honesty meets healing every single day. My name is Mike, and this is John, and we're your co-hosts. And we are very excited to have a special guest today, Dr. Harry Henshaw, who is a licensed mental health counselor and author of A Prelude to a Paradigm Shift in Addiction. Dr. Harry, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, and thank you for having me.
Well, it's definitely our pleasure, and you made such an impact on so many lives, including John and myself's journey. Can you share with us, for the audience, maybe what drew you to transformational therapy?
What drew me to it was just working in the field and seeing so many failures and not seeing very many successes. And it was a combination of applying the work of Louise Hay, which both of you know, and it just sort of changed the whole directory. I mean, you know, the 12-step program, which is what's in place now, focuses on things that are external. And what she did was she focused on everything that was internal. And the changes that I've seen in people are extraordinary. I mean, they're quick. It doesn't take a lot of work. It takes work to continue it, but it's powerful stuff.
We were discussing that last week in regards to the triangle for transformational therapy that we've learned from you, and it's all internal, with our taking responsibility, which is empowering, our choice to make decisions, and the power to do all of that. I think that's where the strength of this recovery lies. Now, in your experience, in your practice, I'm sure you've seen different results, but when you see a positive impact, are there specific moments where you remember positive impacts, and is that reaffirming to you in your calling and what you do?
Well, it's reaffirming in the sense that I see people just change the trajectory of their life. I mean, I saw it in both of you, and it was, I thought, remarkable. It's like learning how to love yourself is really the key to it. It's so simple. And, when you start to love yourself, you don't do stuff. You don't do negative things to yourself. You don't hurt yourself. And, addictive behavior is harmful. It's destructive, if not lethal.
Oh, for sure. And people always want instant gratification. So they want to know, how long does this recovery take? How long does this transformation occur?
It'll take as long as it takes for people to do the work and then continuing to do the work. And the answer to that, I never know. But it's also a sign of being a little impatient. So we talk about that in resistance.
Yeah, because once you're transformed, you still need to continue to do the work and be committed throughout. Otherwise, you're going to revert back.
Yeah, I prescribe every day. It's like when people come onto the group every morning, that's work. If you have a therapist, you keep working with your therapist, and you just continue to do it's daily work. But that's like anything else. If you have a job, you stay at it every day. But this is work for sure.
I know you use the example because you're a basketball player. If you're going to take foul shots, you don't go take foul shots, once a month and expect to go out and shoot at a 90% clip.
No, it's months, if not years, and. And the key, as both of you know it, is repetition. You do it over and over and over. Positive affirmations over and over and over. Reading, having the conversations we have in the morning support group. It's just repetition. Everything we learn is through repetition, period.
And in our previous podcast, we spoke about a lot of the foundations for this work in change and resistance, accepting and forgiving. Through your experience, what are some factors or what are some things that you see when it comes to resistance in clients and individuals that you work with?
Well, people always resist in the beginning. And resistance, people get bummed out when they resist, but resistance is part of the process. And as I've told both of you, resistance is not bad. It's just normal. And it's about how you deal with the resistance. And essentially, you stay with people and you help them to work through the resistance. And it's like people, when they're early in recovery, they resist positive. Well, if you keep with this work, eventually you transform, you change, and then you resist negative. So resistance is a part of us. It's not a bad thing. And it gets a bad rap, when people say, oh, you're resisting, well, it's learning how. A lot of therapists don't know how to use resistance. And that's unfortunate. But resistance is not a bad thing. It's something to be used and changed.
And to be aware of it.
And awareness, yes. Awareness, knowledge, and understanding, as you guys know.
And with our second podcast, we had discussed acceptance.
Yes.
So why do you feel as though acceptance is such a turning point when it comes to this work?
Well, when you start to accept, you start to accept yourself. And when you start to accept yourself, you do one thing that's really powerful. You stop judging. And judgment, is making people right and wrong. But when you judge other people, you've already passed judgment on yourself. So judgment and acceptance are antithetical. They're opposites. So when someone practices acceptance, even in the big book, it says acceptance, we believe, is a solution to all problems. I agree, to all problems, especially about loving yourself. When you love yourself, you accept yourself, and you don't judge. And if you don't judge yourself, you don't judge other people.
So moving on to our third podcast, Dr. Airy, we talked about forgiveness. How important is forgiving what you've done and what you've created in the past?
Forgiveness is about letting go of the past. It's about moving yourself into the present. Because as both of you know, the past and the future don't exist. It's sort of like people are living an illusion when they're in the past. They're trying to fix things. They're trying to, they're holding on to the past. They're blaming people. And when you're blaming people, then you've limited your power if you have any power. So when you forgive people, you let go of the past and move into the present. Louise Hay said that, people should learn how to live their entire life in the present and to really stay out of the past, because the past doesn't exist and the future doesn't exist. So that's all our power is. You know about forgiveness. I mean, that was one of the elements with you that started to transform you. It's almost like you could see it. Everything about your being changed.
I know for me, it was one of the hardest things to do, I think, for me.
Yes, absolutely. You saw the result. You felt the result. People saw it too.
When you talk about there is no past, there is no future. So if you start spending all of your time worrying about the past or thinking about the future, then it goes back to what we talk about with moments. And ordinary moments, there are no ordinary moments. Every moment is extraordinary. But if your mind is here and your mind is there, then you're never making time for extraordinary moments. Every single minute of your day should be the best minute of your day.
Yeah. And if you're doing that, you're limiting yourself, you're limiting relationships, you're limiting your job, everything, because everything that's real exists in the present. For example, relationships. You can't have a good relationship if you've lived most of your life in the past. It sounds weird, but when you start to think about it, it makes a lot of sense.
And that's the thing, because I believe that transformational therapy is so powerful. And when the work is done, when you commit to do the work, can be a simple program. And at first, it is difficult. But once you start doing it and you start feeling that self-esteem and that self-love, it's something you don't want to stop, and it's something that you sure as hell not going to give up.
I know you touched a little bit on this, but how is transformational therapy different from your traditional therapy or support groups?
Well, transformation, it's a word that I sort of borrowed from Dr. Wayne Dyer, because he talked about it a lot. And transformation means it means change. So, the whole process is about changing. So what do you change? You change your behavior? No, you got to change your thinking. And when I was living in Chicago and I got into rational emotive therapy, the predecessor of cognitive behavioral therapy, and then moved to Boston and, discovered Louise Hay, it's all about changing your thinking. And for some people, that's very difficult. But when you get it, it's just like things open up and you take off.
It's really like a launching pad, because people in active addiction, they're thinking, but they're just thinking the wrong thing. Everything is negative being fed into their subconscious. And we've been doing that for 10, 20, 30, 40 years.
Right.
The subconscious through the conscious has to be reaffirmed, and then we need to bring that subconscious to the conscious to change our behavior.
Right. And the key that unlocks that process, like that you just talked about, is when people deal with the issue of, oh, yeah, I do love myself while I'm using. And that's a lie they keep telling themselves. Because you both know when, I gently, with respect, confront somebody, and then all of a sudden they get it. Like they really don't love themselves. When people get that, the door opens. There's a breakthrough. You start to create the space for change. And once you get it that you didn't love yourself, you automatically want to well, how can I love myself? Now the process has started.
And you would say that's why it is extremely important to do mirror work in this process.
Mirror work is as I told both of you, it's one of the most powerful processes for rewiring the subconscious mind, feeling better. It gets right to the nitty-gritty, goes right to the unconscious. It's access to your unconscious mind. It's just that simple.
And when you say you ask people about their self-esteem and they tell you they have great self-esteem, it's not even as though they're lying, right?
No.
But they don't even know what self-love is yet.
No, they're not volitionally lying. They're telling you what they believe.
Yeah.
But it's all about your thoughts and your beliefs. They have to be given up. They have to be confronted. And then people say, well, bro, I really don't believe that. So they're coming from, believing that they were lying to themselves. But no, that's not malicious, for sure. Because they truly believe they love themselves while they're using, which is not true. But when they get it, then something goes off and they start to do the work.
Yeah, I know for me, that's really where it took place, is in front of the mirror.
Yeah, powerful. It's extremely powerful. And initially can be very difficult too, because you're confronting yourself, as you guys have the podcast, in a raw sense. There's nothing between you and yourself. And that's when you start to get that you start to transform you. It's a personal transformation. Nobody's transforming you. You are doing that to yourself.
And you're not initially in the early stages, when you start doing those positive affirmations and you're talking to yourself, you don't believe a word you're saying to yourself. When you're saying, I'm perfect, whole, and I'm complete, and I love my life exactly as it is right now. Oh, no, I don't. No, I'm not.
Yeah, you may even believe that you're a fraud, just not saying the truth. Well, that's true. You don't believe it. But like anything else, when you continue to tell yourself you're perfect, whole, and complete, or you love yourself, eventually you will accept that, because that is the truth. You are perfect, whole, and complete, as we've talked about. The problem is you don't believe it. Now, when you come to believe it, that's your truth.
Now, some people I brought up mirror work with, one of their tactics for resistance was, well, I don't want to seem as though I'm egotistical.
Right.
That I'm looking in the mirror and I think, I love myself and I'm the best. But that's not it at all.
Not at all. No, that's more resistance to the process. They haven't fully gotten the fact that they don't love themselves. But it is resistance. But eventually, both of you had it when you started doing it. Eventually, okay, yeah, I got this. I do love myself now. And you're in that process. It's like feeding the good wolf every morning.
So that kind of ties into our topic we wanted to talk about, was commitment. So this is something you have to do on a daily basis. This is not something you can do every couple of days.
Absolutely. Yeah. This has got to be done daily. It's like you use the example of basketball. When I was actually playing many years ago, it was daily. You'd get out there and it was a daily routine. And, this is something that you have to continue to do it every day. Just like the group, doing affirmations, mirror work. I encourage people to read, as you know. But yeah, it's stuff that you do daily. But at some point, you start to enjoy. I enjoy the work now. So at some point, one of the breakthroughs is that you like to do it. You love to do it. It feels good, as opposed to other things that don't feel good. We do things that feel good. And I love her work. I love to listen to her videos. As I've said, her work is like angelic. It's just incredible.
Yeah, that's how I am today. I do this work and it makes me feel good. I don't need the substance to feel good. I love myself today.
Right.
And what I do on a daily basis makes me feel good.
Well, you're making yourself feel good now, as opposed to using a substance that gave you sort of a false feel good. It didn't give you a real feel good, just because it wore off and then you felt bad. But now you know how to make yourself feel good naturally.
And it's also good to get to the point where feeling good about yourself is paramount compared to what other people think about you.
Absolutely.
Again, that's external. So, what other people are thinking about it, it's neither here nor there to me.
Yeah, you're not concerned about what other people think of you. I don't personally care. I mean, I don't go out of my way to offend people, which I wouldn't do that. But the thing is, what's important is what I think of myself.
Would you say that if we're reaching for that external validation, we're not comfortable with ourselves still?
Correct. Exactly. That's one of the signs of it. People pleasers, all that sort of stuff. It's a sign that they still have work to do. They're actually not doing it. It's, you have to care about like what Jonathan thinks about Jonathan and Mike about Mike, period. That's the only one that really matters.
And that's doing something, and we spoke about it this morning, altruism.
Yes.
If you do something kind for someone out of the kindness of your heart, just because you know it's the right thing to do, or you feel it's the right thing to do for another person,
right? Which
is a great gift to give somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're looking for that handout or that payback, then it's not anything. It's not service.
Yeah, and it's not altruistic. You're looking for a payoff. And literally, that's when I designed the group in the morning. I took money out of the equation. So there's not a payoff, so people can come and actually not be hampered by it and do the work, which is usually the case.
And they can find that on your website, Dr. Harry?
Yes, it's on the homepage. It's just a tab they lit, and then they can come to the group. There's no charge for it.
And that's enhancedhealing.com?
Enhancedhealing.com is the website. Yep.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so we got some questions on our Instagram. This is from Sue in Georgia. So far, a lot of the conversation has been about the person in recovery. What suggestions can you give to family or partners or close friends of those on this journey? Can the topics you've been discussing today be as relevant to them as it is to the person in recovery?
I think the answer to that is it's extremely relevant. When they start reading it, maybe, they'll start to see stuff that they can promote with themselves. I think everybody can benefit from her work. Everybody from transformation, because her work was not originally done for people with recovery, addictive issues. It was done for everybody. I think it would be good for people like family members to study.
Would you say this transformational therapy is more about what we think and believe of ourselves and not being of the substance?
Correct. Right. It's all about what you think about yourself, about your value and worth. It's like what I refer to as a self-image. It's a thinking. What Jonathan thinks of his value and worth is the issue. The cause is not the brain. The cause is not the substance. It's not your history. It's not trauma. It's none of that stuff. And that's the one thing that the system, the recovery system, the treatment industry, they've missed the boat. Their knowledge is just not adequate enough. It's not adequate at all.
And that's the thing. I've heard in support groups is that knowledge is not enough. And my first question is, well, what knowledge are you talking about?
Right. Correct.
Because if you're not given the correct knowledge, and I don't think people in recovery centers or in support groups don't have your best interest at heart. I think they do.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But they're just not providing the information that you need to truly transform and get sober, not just physically, not just not picking up or using.
Right.
But just changing who you are overall.
Yeah. I think that the people who do, work in the industry, I think they're doing the best they can with the knowledge, understanding, and awareness. Unfortunately, I agree with you. They don't have the best knowledge. And it does, and how you know that is it just doesn't work. The percentage of relapses and even the death toll, they're a reflection of that. Because the main focus is self-love. It's when people start to take care of themselves. It's not like stop drinking or stop doing drugs. And then one of the things that you guys have talked about is just being helpless. And I think that the whole conversation about traditional recovery it doesn't motivate people to do the work. But when you start to do this work and you feel good, it's like internally motivating. It's like, wow, this feels good. I want to do more of this.
Yeah, and to the caller's question, with the readings from Louise Hay and Wayne Dyer, they could probably get a better understanding as to what their loved one was going through.
Yes.
And why they were using or drinking.
Right.
And why their behavior was the way it was. And if they're committed to the work.
Right.
almost dealing with a completely different person that you had spent time with for years and decades.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost a reintroduction.
Right. Very much so. Very much so. They need to learn that, they're going to be skeptical when somebody starts to do the work and starts to change. There'll be a little skepticism, how to deal with that and that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think everybody could benefit from her work. It would give them a better understanding of what the real issue is. I agree with you completely.
And we have Phil from New York. Phil says, how long would it take to go through this recovery process? What's the time frame for recovery? And once someone is transformed, how do you know that it is sustainable? Good question.
Well, again, the question itself implies a little bit of resistance. So actually a lot of resistance. Well, how long is this going to take? Can you tell me? And, that's just being, what is it? Impatience. So the deal is you just have to tell them it's going to be directly related to how much work you do. And it's like anything else. So I just deal with the resistance right up front and then move past it. Because it's going to take 4 weeks. It's going to take 6 weeks. Treatment centers, they'll say, well, it'll take 28 days. Well, that's not true. Oh, it's going to take 60 days. Well, that's not either. You don't know any of that. It's not time. It's effort.
And there is no destination with this transformational therapy.
No. You're not going to complete it. There is no completion. There is just the transformation. The journey is the change, is the transformation. And when you really fall in love with and enjoy the journey, that's what you will continue. Yeah, you're right. There is no you got it, you get your completion letter, and then you walk out the door. It doesn't work that way. I mean, the treatment center has tried that. They give you completion letters, and that means nothing, zero. It's again, and that's something external. And how you know that people you see the changes in their behavior, how they treat themselves, how they take care of themselves, and how they take care of their family, how they relate to their family. So the empirical signs of change are there. You just have to know what they are and look for them.
And the thing with journey and destination, I don't want there to be a destination.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, because I'm enjoying the journey so much, and every day is a new experience. If I get to a destination, my growing is stopped.
Right.
I want to continue up that mountain.
Yeah.
So I don't want to see a peak up top where I'm just sitting down, because then I'm staying still.
Yeah.
I'm in neutral.
No, I totally agree with you. I don't know what I would do with myself if there was a destination. So I enjoy doing this, and there is no destination.
I know there's a phrase that a lot of people like to say, and we talk about it a lot, is, would you say saying that I got this is okay?
Well, we really can't get into the rest of the answer to that for a variety of reasons, but no, that's one way of setting somebody up. Oh, just, you got this. And then people say, once you've got something, what do? You stop doing the work. And there is no getting. If you're using the word get, it's a verb, getting. You're constantly getting it. Not like you got it. It's not a noun. Recovery is not a noun. It's a verb. It's a constant getting, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. That's what I was trying to get at is,
yeah.
We got this, so we don't need to do this work anymore.
No, that doesn't work. That'll end in one result. You both know what it is. So
yeah, and the only phrases that matter are the ones that you're telling yourself that are positive.
Yes, that's it.
And you could talk about other support groups. They have phrases. Anywhere you go, treatment centers, there's all phrases, there's posters on the wall. Whether meeting makers make it or you got this, or, it doesn't matter what setting you're in, you still have to do the work.
Right.
And with transformational therapy, that's the right work to get moving in the direction you want to go.
Yes, I agree with you. When you start taking care of yourself and you start respecting and loving yourself, your life changes. It's diametrically opposed to love yourself and then do something harmful to yourself. It just doesn't happen. So the key is when you learn how that you have value and worth, when you learn that you're perfect, whole, and complete, you won't do negative things to yourself. And as we know, drugs and alcohol, they're toxic. They're toxic to human beings.
And here we have Sam from Florida wants to know, is there a God? What does spirituality mean to you?
Well, I think this is something that has become extremely personal to me. Years ago, I had no idea what spirituality meant. And did I believe in a God? Well, I believed in one intellectually, but not experientially. And what has happened with this work is, this work first starts off with learning how to love yourself. Now, the more you start to love yourself, and you've both heard me say this, when you start to love yourself, that love that you're experiencing is actually now you're starting to reconnect with Source, Spirit, higher power, God. This transformation is actually a practical, it's not only a philosophy, but it's a way to get reconnected to God. So is it spirituality? Yes, in my sense, in the purest form of the thing. It starts off with self-love. But where you're headed toward, if you continue this work, is reunification with Spirit, with Source. So, I mean, it sounds kind of metaphysical and, kind of way out there, but it's really not.
Well, we've kind of caused a disconnect with our source, our power, our God, with using and drinking. And when we start this transformation, we've opened that gate to allow that back into us.
Absolutely.
And live inside of us.
Well, when you think about it, God is love. Okay. When you start to use drugs and alcohol, you don't love yourself. So there's your disconnect. You disconnect from Spirit and Source. You disconnect from yourself, who you really are, with a capital S. You disconnect from that. And so now you have this chasm. But when you start transformation, you start to bring that stuff together. And you start to get in touch with who you really are as a person. And then you start to get connected spiritually.
And when you say connect with yourself, you talk often about your identity.
Your true identity.
And who you are.
Yeah. Who you really are is not what you do, what you have, what other people think of you. Who you really are, I mean, it sounds crazy, is Spirit, Source, higher power, God. That's our real essence, in my opinion. I came to this conclusion when I was finishing the book. And it was like an epiphany at the end of the book. I said, damn, this is really what it's all about. You have these epiphanies, they just happen.
I know for me, that's become my belief is I am my higher power. I am the power to transform my life.
You hit it right on the head. Couldn't have been said any better. Exactly. You are higher power. And then the more you do this, the more that you start to become that higher power. Yeah, I mean, you said it right on the money. Perfect.
So we have Keith, again from Florida. Keith wants to know, how did you find the process of writing your book? Did the process inform your counseling practice in any way?
Well, it helped me. It helped me to define my counseling process. It helped me to understand the problem, the problem was, it was a paradigm that was faulty. The 12-step program and recovery in the treatment center industry. It was a faulty way of thinking about addiction. And, going back to what Wayne Dyer once said, when both of you heard it, when you change how you look at something, the something you look at changes. That's what happened to me. So I started to apply her work to what I was doing professionally, and it's just like everything changed. And it's like they're two diametrically opposed camps. Like, for example, the recovery movement thinks that you're helpless. Well, the transformation thinks that you have power. You're not helpless, for sure, not in any sense of the term. And so that just goes down to that. When I was writing the book, it just became clearer and clearer and clearer about what the problem was and what the solution is. And it just shows when people do the work, they feel better. They take care of themselves. In the group, I get to see that happening live.
And with that, when we are helpless or we're told we're helpless and we don't have power, it's almost leaving the window open in the back door or the back room that you could, slip out into that world. As you say, the wonderful world of drugs and alcohol.
It's a hall pass. It's a hall pass back to the addictive behavior.
And then you just turn around and say, oh, you know what? I have a disease.
Right.
I was helpless. What was I supposed to do?
Right.
You make a choice is what you're supposed to do.
And I've heard what you just said many, many times. And, one of the things they say, well, relapse is a part of recovery. Really? No, it's not.
And even professionals say that. Well, there's a difference between relapse and lapse. And I'm like, no, there's not. What are we talking about?
Right. Yeah, it's not a part of recovery. It's an indication that you've still got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, it's just telling yourself it's okay to go out and use, because that's part of the process.
Right. Well, if you're at that place, you still haven't accepted some of the fundamental stuff about transformation. When you accept the 10 principles of transformation, or even if you just do the triangle, the 3 of them, that literally the acceptance of that starts you to change. If you start to accept the 10 principles, you don't want to use, especially the 10th one, which is like, I am God. Then you don't. You're that whole framework of thinking, there's just no place in using drugs and alcohol. None.
Yeah, and you said that, John, that people still, think that, maybe they want to. Whereas, and I know in my conversations with you and Dr. Harry, that's not in our conversation or in our mindset. But I remember a conversation I had with you, Dr. Harry, when I tried to ask you, well, if I change my self-esteem and I look in the mirror, so you're saying I can go out to the game and have, a couple of beers. I remember like it was yesterday, and you just paused, almost like by design, and just turned and looked at me in slow motion. You're like, Mike, it's not that you can't, you don't want to. And I was like, I still hadn't gotten it yet, but I was like, okay, but I get it now.
Well, it's like I was saying, what we do on a daily basis today makes us feel good. That's not even a thought in my mind today, is, having a drink or a drug. What I do, loving myself today and the work that I do on a daily basis makes me feel good.
And part of that process, like I said, is all of the things that you put in place. And the deal is that if you continue to keep those things in place, you just keep moving forward.
So again, in closing, Dr. Harry, thank you for joining us today and sharing your wisdom with us. I know it's been instrumental to so many people and John's journey and my journey. And to our listeners, I hope you enjoyed the show and you take all of the advice that you got and apply it to your lives. And again, remember that sobriety is not just about not picking up or using. It's about transforming your entire person, who you are, your soul, your identity, and becoming the best person that you absolutely can without picking up, without using, and being your true self. Thank you for coming to Real Raw Recovery, where honesty meets healing every single day. If you liked, please share and visit our site at real_raw_recovery or realrawrecovery.org or Dr. Harry's website at enhancedhealing.com. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day.